I have the great pleasure of talking about our new aquaculture podcast to join the lineup that's already growing since we even got funded to do this project. Like Tanoria said, I'm Gabby Brott from New Hampshire Sea Grant and UNH Cooperative Extension. And my other team members are Mike Coogan, Mike Chambers, and Mike Doherty. So I'm the only one not named Mike. And they are representing the Center for Sustainable Seafood out of UNH. And we could not have gotten as far as we did without our partners, mainly oyster farmers, aquaculture practitioners, and basically all of our guests who came on our podcast. Next, please. So, as we've heard, this is always why it's so fun to go last because I get to reiterate what a lot of people have already said. But there is obviously quite the need for aquaculture literacy, as we've heard. At least for us, there are some of the key obstacles to aquaculture expansion in the states. Has been this negative public perception due to misinformation, and that misinformation is because there's an overall lack of information on aquaculture, what it is, who does it, what does it mean for all of us in our seafood needs. And this lack of readily accessible information on this topic, and also the lack of opportunities for the public to ask more questions has made it difficult for people to make informed choices on potential career paths, what sustainable seafood choices they will make. As we heard before, some people are like, well, we didn't know we could eat farm food or that there was even farm seafood available or that it was any good. Or even to engage in the public process to have a say in what is going into their waterways and so on. So increasing the general public's aquaculture literacy serves to combat this misinformation while at the same time it's increasing awareness and also helping to support this industry for growth. Next, please. So part of what we really wanted to do with this project was to provide an accessible and engaging platform to discuss topics, wide variety of topics in aquaculture, help answer questions some people may have, and to really bring forward different perspectives regarding aquaculture and sort of myth busting, right? As a way to increase aquaculture literacy, but also to make aquaculture as a topic and just the information a lot more accessible to a wide and a broad audience. So we decided to develop and produce a limited series podcast. And by limited series, it's basically where we have 8 episodes that we will be releasing soon. And but highlighting it out. It's trying to be different than the other podcast choices that people have. And it is covering a wide variety of aquaculture topics. And we had initially attempted to focus on Northeast aquaculture and aquaculture practitioners and topics. But very quickly we realized, we have way too many ideas and friends that we would love to interview, but realized that we also have to work with our partners, and some were available when we put in the proposal and then weren't. And so we had to broaden our reach, extend our reach to potential other topics. So some of them include diversity in aquaculture, seaweed, ornamentals, education, finfish aquaculture, queen conch, some species that are not typical in the Northeast, but really, really cool to learn about. And so far we have 6 episodes that we're featuring topic expert guests, one episode dedicated to to interviewing high school students who were involved with our informal education partner, the Seacoast Science Center, a year-long program of marine fellowship, and sort of picking their brains about what they know about aquaculture and how things have changed for them as they've done this fellowship. And then each episode has accompanying content. So we are producing content sheets, which is an accessibility best practice. Remember, part of this is to not only make the podcast more accessible to everybody, but also um, to just sort of broaden the amount of information we are enabling to be put out there. So I made a joke that I was the only one not named Mike. So our podcast is actually called Get Aquacultured, but your hosts are Gabby and the Mikes. Um, and we realized that having four hosts was a little, bulky. So we do take turns. Our main host is Mike Coogan, and so on. Next. So, like I said, we have 8 episodes that are ready, locked, and loaded. We're just waiting for some help with UNH and our hosting platform. But so our impact is to be determined because we haven't quite released them. But I will say that each episode we had really this was a big learning curve. We don't do podcasts. So when somebody says, let's just do one, it's not as easy as it sounds. So word to the wise, do your research way ahead of time and prep as if your funding comes through. They're really fun to do, but you do need to have a little know-how. But we had really hoped to keep the podcast for, sort of the shorter attention span people. However, because the people we were interviewing were so much fun and passionate and knowledgeable about aquaculture and all of its promise that we just all kept talking, and either that or we just talked too much. I'm not sure, but we really all did have quite a good time um, interviewing our guests. And one of the impacts, at least from a personal point of view, is we all learned more. My own personal access to different topics and potential partners and ideas really expanded just from being a host and doing some research on our guests. So hopefully that will translate and have ripple effects as our audience tunes in, and hopefully it grows. So we will be uploading to a service with a UNH license called Transistor FM. And the podcast will be available on all major platforms, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. And the really cool thing about Transistor FM is that it provides a suite of statistics. So all of those numbers that we're all waiting for, hopefully we will be able to download and analyze and get a better idea of who's listening to us and what should we do better to increase that audience. Next, please. And then I decided, because as part of another benefit of this wonderful opportunity and funding is we had to figure out how to transcribe things and how to put stuff on a podcast. And um, so I've looked at our transcripts quite a lot, and we were able to pull out what some of these really great quotes from a lot of our interviewees. And they've got some doozies here. If you don't fix this, the fish are dying. We have to fix this. We have hundreds of different species to choose from. One of my favorites was, somebody said this earlier today, aquaculture as a career can be a thing. And somebody, one of our interviewees said, yes, there's many great entry points that people can enter into this field of science. And, another really great um, guest that we had was Imani Black from Minorities in Aquaculture. And she is definitely putting a face to diversity and different ways of getting into the industry. This is not what she ended up thinking she was going to do. So we get to know these interviewees, and then how they're supporting the growth and vitality of this industry. And so read it at your will, but I'm really excited about the skills that we have gained just in learning how to produce a podcast and really researching the topics and so on. So next, please. So what's next? What's next? Yay, will be the launch and publication of this podcast, hopefully by 9:15. And we are still planning on doing our social media campaign to promote each episode. We're not going to release it all at once. You know, we want to give people something to look forward for at least 8 weeks as fall comes around here. And as part of this project, and doing, providing more resources and information to accompany the podcast. We will be adding more to the content sheets, more web links, and we're going to post them on a podcast website that we hope to launch as well later in the fall. And we're going to hope to collect the data from Transistor. And we're all really excited, and maybe there's no more money, but we really want to keep this up. We're excited to keep producing more episodes. And quite honestly, having sat through all of our presentations, I have some great ideas of how to leverage what we are all producing, and hopefully maybe some of you will come on our podcast and get aquacultured. Thank you. Wants to come on our podcast, send me an email. Because one thing I did learn was we really got to have people lined up and scheduled, because everybody's schedules are sort of topsy-turvy all the time, especially working with farmers. So anything can come up. So yeah, let us know.
There is a question in the chat from Emily. She asks, what was the research and review process like?
So luckily for us, we kind of have a nice sort of finger on the temperature of the industry, and so we know a whole bunch of people. But so initially it was those sort of putting out feelers. Are you willing to come on the podcast? And then really looking into what they're doing. Was it relevant for the Northeast? And also, are they comfortable being sort of a voice? Are they comfortable being interviewed and so on? And so it was a group effort, but we did divvy it up. So whoever suggested a guest, so we usually divvy it up into a host and a co-host. And so those two people, a lead host, the lead host would do all of the reaching out and so on, and the co-host would help gather information. And then we would plan out sort of what questions did we want to ask to sort of keep the conversation going, and things that maybe we had some personal insight but we wanted to know more, or we had read a paper of theirs, or even things like going on their Instagram was part of that research, and just sort of figuring that out. So thank you.
Awesome. Well, with that, congratulations, grantees.